I remember the way the light hit the display case. Warm, golden, and full of promises. It was a quiet Tuesday morning in Atlanta, the kind of morning where time seemed to move a little slower. Birds chattered outside the windows of Delacroix Fine Jewelry, and inside, everything sparkled. Rings, pendants, rows of watches ticking in perfect harmony. But for Vanessa Owens, that morning would be anything but peaceful. She wasn't famous, not in the way the world defines fame. She didn't have millions of followers or a verified checkmark by her name, but in her world. Teaching fourth graders at Pine Hills Elementary, volunteering on weekends, raising her teenage daughter alone, Vanessa was a kind of legend. She was the kind of woman who showed up, who smiled through exhaustion, who walked into a room and made you sit up straighter. Not because she demanded it, but because she carried herself like someone who'd survived storms most people couldn't even name. That morning, Vanessa had one thing on her mind, a bracelet, not just any bracelet. A slender 14-karat white gold chain with a small, teardrop diamond at the center. Understated, elegant, perfect. She had been eyeing it for months. It was for her daughter, Ava, who had just been accepted into Howard University on a full scholarship. The bracelet was a celebration, a symbol, something tangible to wrap around her child's wrist to say, "You did it. You're magic, and you come from magic." Vanessa had saved for it bit by bit, skipping lattes, taking extra tutoring gigs after school, canceling a trip with friends. And finally, the day had come. She stepped inside Delacroix Fine Jewelry, just after opening. The bell above the door gave a delicate ding. The shop was nearly empty. A middle-aged white man behind the counter, sharp suit, graying hair, eyes like frosted glass, looked up from his ledger. "Good morning," Vanessa said warmly. He didn't return the smile. "Can I help you?" "I hope so. I'm looking for a bracelet. I saw in the window a few weeks ago, white gold with a teardrop diamond. Still have it." He hesitated a beat too long. Then, "Let me check." He disappeared into a back room, and Vanessa waited. She admired the displays, the careful way each piece rested on velvet. She thought about Ava's reaction when she'd see the bracelet. Maybe she'd cry. Maybe she'd say, "Mama, you didn't have to." But Vanessa wanted to. She needed to. Because sometimes, when the world tells you over and over again that you're not enough, a small glint of gold can remind you that you are. The man returned, placed the bracelet on the counter, and pulled on gloves to lift it from its case. Vanessa's breath caught. "It's even more beautiful than I remembered," she said. The man offered a tight nod. Vanessa pulled out her card, sleek black, with her name engraved in silver. She slid it across the counter. He barely glanced at it. Then he frowned. "This card looks unusual," he said. Vanessa blinked. "It's just my business card. I have a tutoring company, Owens Learning Services." He raised an eyebrow. "Do you have ID?" "Of course," she said, reaching into her bag. She handed it over. He stared at it too long. His fingers moved under the counter. Vanessa noticed. "What's going on?" she asked, her voice calm but tightening. "I'm just verifying the card," he said. "You can call the number on the back if you want," she offered. But the air had shifted. The gold didn't feel warm anymore. It felt heavy, like lead. And then came the words that twisted her stomach into knots. "I'm going to have to ask you to stay here for a moment." Before she could respond, the door opened. 2 officers walked in. Vanessa stood frozen. "Ma'am," one said, "we got a call about a potential fraudulent transaction." Vanessa's eyes widened. "You called the police?" The man behind the counter folded his arms. It's standard protocol when something doesn't feel right. Her ID, her card, her professional demeanor, none of it mattered. One of the officers asked her to step aside. They spoke to her like she was a suspect, like she walked in with a ski mask instead of savings. She showed them her business license, her account app with the balance, the tutoring payments, her Howard acceptance letter email chain, the matching last names. It took 23 minutes. 23 minutes where the world tilted, where a celebration turned into an interrogation. Finally, after verifying everything, the officer turned to the shop owner. "There's no fraud here." No apology came, Just a shrug. You can't be too careful. Vanessa didn't say a word. She picked up her card and ID, slipped them into her bag. She looked once more at the bracelet on the counter. Then she turned and walked out the door. That night, she sat at her kitchen table with Ava, the bracelet still on her mind. She told her what happened. Ava didn't cry. She didn't rage. She just nodded, like she'd always known the world could do that to women who looked like them. "Mama," she said quietly, "we wear gold like armor, not because we need the world to see our worth, but because we already know it." Vanessa smiled, tears burning her eyes. She didn't need that bracelet to prove anything, but she'd never forget what it cost her to try and buy it. Sometimes the price of gold isn't just money, it's dignity, it's trust, it's the exhaustion of having to prove again and again that you belong. This story isn't just Vanessa's. It's every woman who's ever been followed in a store, doubted at the register, side-eyed in spaces she worked twice as hard to enter. And the moral? That justice isn't always in the courtroom. Sometimes it's in the small acts of resistance, of walking out with your head high, of telling your daughter the truth, of choosing not to shrink. Because our worth was never in their cases, behind their glass. We are the gold. To believe in yourself in a world that teaches you not to, that is the real luxury.